Hello and welcome to a video on the Academic Progress Tracker or APT. So in this video we're going to give you a quick talk through what the APT is all about, and then in the following video we'll look at it on screen and talk through each of the tabs, etc. Alright, let's get rid of that. Okay, so navigation. So where are you going to find for creating, editing and viewing the Academic Progress Tracker? You go to Records and Enrollment, Program Enrollment, Academic Progress Tracker. And then everything else about the APT you'll also find in Records and Enrollment, Program Enrollment. All the different processes that are used to update and manipulate the APT are also found there. Okay, what it does. So each student has an APT, and it's used to determine what stage students can plan and when. So normally they'll be planning for one stage at a time. They have choices, module choices for one stage at a time. So it will determine when they will be able to do that. And then obviously, as it has the structure in it from the AIR, the program of study, it determines what choices they can make and when. And for example, compulsory courses that are in their AIR, they'll be in their APT, and they'll be turned into course enrollments from their APT using the APT enrollment functionality. Record student choices. So yes, when students have planned courses in the self-service planner, or they've enrolled on, or they've indeed completed a course, all that information, it comes back into and is held in the APT, and the process that's used to bring that information in is called APT Sync. Records course mark. So yes, we get a transfer into the APT from the individual activity manager records of the students' course marks and the result type for each course mark. So it could be first resit, second resit, etc. That information comes back into the APT using the IAM result posting functionality. And then finally, it's a repository, the APT, for progression outcomes. So it's where we store the progression rule we run to check whether a student has successfully completed a stage. The outcome of that will be stored against the stage record in the APT. It will say satisfied, not satisfied, but also data that's used in the progression rule, such as total credits, passed, failed, their average mark, overall average mark, that is also recorded in the APT and populated by additional rules that are used prior to or part of the progression rule. So I guess the kind of impression you should be getting here is that the APT is essentially a repository, an area which stores the students' progress, what's happened, what results they've got, what how well have they done at each stage in their study. So it's not actually doing a great deal, but it's giving us that overall record of what's happened as part of their studies. So the sort of actions that you'll perform directly in the APT, if you've got a student that's changed plans, you'll create a new APT, but then you'll need to go into the APT and activate the planning node once it's created. So activating the planning node means the student can plan their choices for the stage they're in, or possibly for the stage that they'll be doing in the next year, in the summer term prior to it. You may need to update the APT, which there are some manual entries that you can do in the APT. So you could be adding or substituting academic items, generally course records. And you can personalize the timeline. So if a student's suspended for a year, say, then you need to move their timeline on. So if before they suspended, they've got stage 2 down against 2017-18 academic year, then you need to go in and change that so that stage 2 is now under 2018-19 academic year, if that makes sense. So there's not a lot of actions in there, but one or two that you'll need to be familiar with. Okay, system process. So most of what's happening in the APT and updating of the APT is run by system processes. These are all going to be managed by IS and will probably be scheduled to run on a nightly basis. The main exception to that will be APT admin roster. So let's talk through these quickly. APT requests, that's used to create APTs and activate planning nodes. So it activates the new stage, say, for students to make choices for their next year. APT enrollment, this creates class enrollments for compulsory courses. So student in their APTs down to do these 5 compulsory courses. APT enrollment will look at those and then go and enroll the student on the relevant classes for those compulsory courses in the right year. APT Sync, so this updates the student's APT with their student records course enrollment. So the classes they've enrolled on, it will bring that information back into the APT. And then the APT administrative roster, this is something that admin staff probably will use, and that's what we will use to update APTs to reflect changes to a program of study after the APT has been created and the planning node for the relevant stage where the changes has been activated. Okay, if you make a change to your program of study for, say, stage 2, and students or some of the students are still only in stage 1, that's fine because their planning node hasn't been activated for stage 2, so the changes will automatically happen in the student's APT. It's only after the APT, the planning node has been created, that we have to use this APT admin roster. Okay, so that's it. That gives you a basic introduction to the APT, and in the next video we'll look through it on screen.